Okay, well, we'll get started. So today we're going to talk about wet lightning. If at any point you have any questions about wet lightning, or if there's anything you want to add, the chat is always open at any time. So feel free to utilize that during today's talk. So yeah, we're going to talk about wet lightning. I know we kind of touched on it like a couple weeks ago when we were talking about balayaging. Wet lightning is a great way to utilize like a quicker service. It's very fast. Wet hair lightens quicker than dry hair. Some of the times you might want to use it is if you are, pressed for time. If you're trying to just go for like a really subtle, soft lift, wet lightning typically will only bump you a few shades. That's why it's not always ideal to do, but it's nice for a little brightness. It's nice to remove an old toner to kind of get the hair all back in, one even level. I love to use it just to like kind of brighten ends, especially if the client's hair is a little bit damaged, because this is a little bit more gentle than applying regular bleach in a foil or just, dry balayaging. When do you like to do it, Mel?
I like to do it when my clients kind of like need to lighten their ends, but it's like borderline to where like their hair could be compromised if we do it in like a foil, like you were saying. So I like to do it if they definitely need to be lightened, but I'm kind of on the fence about if I want to do it during like their processing time. So I think it's like a good option if you just want to just lighten like a level or two. I mean, you can even do more than a level 2, I know, but I like to do it when I'm kind of nervous or apprehensive to do it like while they're at the chair. So I think it's a good option because you can obviously like take it down whenever you need to take it down.
Yeah. That's another thing I love about lightning wet is you can do it at the bowl very quickly, or you can kind of spray them down at the chair and do it there too if you just feel like it's a little hard to get. So our shampoo bowls, we can't walk behind them, so we have to do it from the side. And sometimes depending on which one you're at, you're a little bit more restricted with how you can move around. So it is easier to bring them back to the chair and do it. But let's talk about like prepping your client to lighten their hair while it's wet. So like I was saying a little bit earlier, I most of the time do it like after whatever service. So if I already like highlighted them and I didn't pull bleach through their ends, like I might do it then. Usually very rarely do I have somebody come in just to like get lightened while their hair is wet. And nobody asks for that. And we don't set that up in our booking system as like an option. That's kind of like strictly just our discretion.
I like that too, because I feel like clients don't really like know. Like I feel like if we did advertise that, like a lot of clients maybe with like my hair, like for example, would like see that on TikTok and be like, oh, that's like what I want, but that's not really like the case for wet balayage too. So
it goes back to one of those things of like the client, just because they see something on social media doesn't always mean that they know when it's best used or when it would be suitable for their hair.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of popular like on TikTok and everything now that like hair on TikTok is really popular. I feel like I see like a lot of TikToks of like lightning at the bowl, and I feel like a lot of people kind of show that to me. So I do like how we don't have that on our menu. It's kind of just like if we need to use that like as a tool, we can. So
yeah,
I agree.
I think it's another great like value added service. Sometimes, if people come in just for like to refresh their toner and they wish that like their hair was just a little bit brighter, they wish they could go, a shade or two brighter than what they have. And it really doesn't take long. So it's nice to be able to like throw that in if you have the time to do it without needing a substantial amount of time to change their look up just a little bit. So when I am going to lighten the hair, I always shampoo it first, because normally I have color on either their scalp or I've already done highlights, but even if not, I still shampoo it pretty well. I like to use a clarifying shampoo. We love Kevin Murphy's clarifying shampoo. It's awesome. Maxi wash. It just helps get all the buildup off the hair, off the scalp. You want to start with like very clean hair because you don't need the lightener to spend all its time working on like breaking through product buildup or anything else that could be on their hair. Like you just want it to do its job and do it quickly. So I used to do like a nice shampoo. Even though it's called wet lightening, you don't want the hair to be sopping wet. It's better if the hair is just like a little bit damp. So I towel dry it very well, making sure to wring out all the excess water. Another thing we utilize at our salon that is extremely beneficial, in my opinion, is all the K18 products. K18 has a mask, a professional mask that you can use before or while toning or bleaching. And then you also can blow dry it into the hair, and it just kind of helps repair those bonds as they're breaking. So after I shampoo and I, comb it out and get it really towel dry, so it's nice and damp, I do add just one pump of that mask to their ends, because like we said, sometimes when you're doing this service, it is on somebody whose hair is a little bit more compromised. So you want to make sure you're taking all the steps to maintain their hair health. Do you want to add to that at all, Mel?
Yeah, I love using the K18 after I do that. I don't really think that, like what you were saying, like that the wet balayage like makes, like you can tell like compromise wise, like you can make you can tell after. But I think following at the bowl with like a leave-in mask or like or a hair treatment is really important too, just so the client doesn't notice any damage or anything. But I feel like for the most part, like if you're not letting it sit on like for a super amount of time, long period of time, like you don't really notice any difference in the hair with the wet
Yeah, well,
balayage.
that's like the thing with wet lightning too that people love, is because the water creates a bit of a barrier between just the hair, so it's a lot more gentle on the hair than just going in regularly.
Yeah.
So another thing that's super important to think about is choosing your developer. Personally, for me, anytime I'm wet lightning, I always use at least 30 volume. I feel like you can go a little bit higher when wet lightning because there is a barrier with that water. And like I said, it doesn't sit very long, so I like it to like work quickly. Like I said a little earlier, too, lightened hair or wet hair lightens a little quicker. So if you're using a higher volume of developer on wet hair, it can sit for as little as 5 minutes and you'll see some sort of a result.
Yeah, I always like tell the other girls in the salon too, like if they accidentally pull like their foils, like if they're doing a balayage, if they accidentally pull it like a little too soon because it was looking more like it was done in the foil, I'll just tell them to like grab like 20 or 25 minutes for like 2 to 5 minutes, like just to bump it like a level. So that's like also like a nice trick, like if you like made a mistake.
Yeah, that, and another way that I love to utilize it for mistakes is when you're regular balayaging and maybe you didn't saturate fully. Because then again, like there's splotches and it's easier to even it out that way. And like Mel said, it can sit anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. If it's, if you want to try and get as light as possible, I would say a max of 30 minutes. After that, it really isn't going to do much more. And that's a really long time for it to sit on anyway. I would say usually the most I ever leave it on is about 15 or 20. When applying the lightener to the hair, you want to make sure you're still saturating all the way, making sure to emulsify it between your hands. Sometimes when the hair is wet, it's hard to tell if it got all the way through the strand. I personally like to work in thinner sections because I think it just helps brighten it quicker and it helps with saturation all the way through. The plus side is when the hair is wet, the lightener does spread easier, in my opinion. Another trick I like to use is I keep a dry color brush just nearby so that when I get near the top of my section, I use the dry brush and I like move it in an upward motion, which just creates a really soft blend. Even though this is a like the whole thing comes out softer and lighter, you can still get those harsh lines. So using a dry brush or using a comb and just kind of combing up, either one of those will just help ensure that there's no harsh lines anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I like doing that.
How does your application go for the most part?
So it kind of depends on the client. I feel like if I only have like a handful of blondes that like request to be like blonder and blonder every time. So I feel like for those people, they're separate. And then like if I'm pulling like the pieces like that I tipped out, for example, like say if like they're like ready, but like I probably could let them sit on for like 5 more minutes. To help me like bump like a level, like if I pull too fast, I won't even like really like part the hair and separate it. Like I'll just literally see like what I need and then kind of like paint that on in the bowl. But if I'm doing it like and almost like as an add-on, like I'll kind of separate and part the hair into like 4, kind of like what you see like on TikTok and like Instagram. And then kind of just like eyeball like what I need to place. But I think it really just depends on like what you're doing with it, because obviously if you're kind of doing it as like part of the service, you need to be really clean and like part the hair accordingly. But I mean, if you're just kind of like eyeballing what you're fixing, then you can go from there. But
Sure. So even if like we keep talking about like this being a quick service, you have to remember at the same time, it still is lightener and it still is going to do all of the things that it normally does. So you don't want to be sloppy with your application, because if you drop like a little bit of it on the top of the head or whatever, you're still going to get like a bleeder mark. It's still going to lift in that area. So making sure you're keeping your sections clean and your application is clean, I think is super important. Another way that's awesome to utilize it is if you do a lot of bleach touch-ups. I have a few, and I have a couple people in particular that overuse purple shampoo in between their appointments because they like that like very ashy, icy look. So they use so much purple shampoo that it's hard to get their touch-up to blend with their ends. So this is another way I love to do it. When I'm doing it this way, I usually mix with 40 volume. I shampoo them really well. I put the lightener all over their ends and I let it sit while I go and mix the toner, because I know it's going to bump like 1 or 2 levels to where I want them to go, and really just to remove that gray purple buildup off their ends so that I can start with a fresh slate.
yeah, I feel like that's perfect for that too, because I feel like you don't need to pull through during their service or during their processing time, I should say. Like you don't need to do that. They're already lifted to that. So I think just kind of having a tool to just almost clarify or bump, like what you were saying, is perfect, and it's quick.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's super quick when it's processing while you're mixing anyway. So it's not like you're taking up really any extra time.
Because I feel like half the time you really don't even need to pull through anyway. And like I said, like if you feel like you do need to pull through, it's nice because if you do need to rinse it quick, like you can do that rather than like putting it in a foil and then you can't really kind of save those ends if you need to take it down. So I think that's a nice tool to have.
Yeah, definitely. Let me just see real quick. So then, yeah, after it sits on and you're happy with how it looks, we always recommend like scratching off some of it, because sometimes it appears so much lighter while the lightener is sitting on than like when you take it off. You kind of always wish you left it on another minute. So I always scratch off a little bit with like my nail or with a brush just to see the true tone before I'm ready to take the whole thing off. And then I always treat this service just like any other lightening service. Although it is gentler and it doesn't do as much damage, it still is bleach, which is still compromising to the hair. So I like to use, a repairing shampoo or a hydrating shampoo to kind of keep the hair intact. I utilize all our K18 products. Sometimes if I feel like they need a deep conditioner, we do that. And then I always communicate with my clients too, like the way to talk about it sometimes is like, your ends are looking a little bit dull to me. I think this is a great option to kind of brighten you up a little bit. And they're always going to say yes. And then when the hair is dry, I always, you know, kind of point it out, like, do you feel a little bit brighter on the ends? Do you see like this piece that's just, you know, a couple shades lighter? It gives you some brightness around the face, whatever we did. Um, just to keep like the communication open. And again, like we've talked in the past, like bringing attention to the little details that you've done, because it's going to set you apart from other stylists in your area. When you go above and beyond and do little things here and there without them asking, because again, like we always say, like we're the professionals, we can notice when their hair is not like looking great. And when we take initiative in the right way about it and talk about it properly, it's easier for the client to trust us. Because some people might not say anything because they don't want to hurt the client's feelings. And you don't have to say it as in like, you think it looks bad. Like sometimes I ask like, do you feel like your ends are dull looking? And then, you know, sometimes they say, yeah, or sometimes they're like, I don't know, honestly, I haven't noticed. So I would come forward and say, you know, I think this is something we should do today just to kind of keep you looking bright and fresh and whatever. How do you go about navigating the conversation, Mel?
You know, honestly, like I feel like unless it's like a new client, like I kind of like to have like a hair like plan or like routine for like a good like 6 months or like even like year for like my blondes. So like even like unless they're a new client, obviously like I ask them like how they're feeling about their hair. But like say like if we pulled through like their ends like 2 months ago or however long their last appointment was, I would maybe recommend like, you know, we pulled through last time, like let's keep your hair healthier this time. And like if we need to like do wet balayage, maybe like around like your face a little bit, like let's do that. I feel like a lot of mine like let me do whatever. So usually like I'll like give my recommendation, then ask like how they're feeling. Because I feel like if I already kind of have a plan, like they're gonna be like, oh, like that does sound good. And then they'll probably like tell me what's bothering them. But I'll usually try to offer like my opinion first, unless they're a new guest. And obviously I want their honest like feedback on their hair. But yeah, usually I try to recommend stuff first and then see how they're feeling about their hair.
Yeah. And then after everything is said and done and we've shampooed it out, we've done the necessary treatments, we've styled them, cut them, done whatever else we have to do. Before they leave, I always just go over a quick at home aftercare solution, reminding them not to use too hot of irons, how important heat protectants are. Now that summer's coming, you know, reminding blondes about chlorine in the pool, turning their hair green, just things like that, trying to educate them on not overusing purple shampoo, just so that they can keep the tones they love the longest at home.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
Because I mean, again, if you don't tell clients about like purple shampoo or like products and everything, like they might like think like if they haven't been blonde like their whole lives, like they might think like they need to use it like every wash or every other wash, like they don't know. And then they come back for their appointment, then their hair is like dull and like silver, and then you know.
Absolutely. I think that there's just like a huge like miscommunication about purple shampoo in general. Almost every time that I'm talking about it, I feel like a client has been like misinformed on like how to use it or when to use it. They're using it too often. It's important to remind people that it could be drying, and that it's kind of like a when needed thing.
Yeah, I like to tell clients like almost like if you can like go like a decent amount of time without using it, like almost use it like when you feel like you need to like get a toner, like use that in like replacement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And reminding them too that it needs to sit on for a couple minutes. Some people just think that you use it like a regular shampoo and that's why it's not working necessarily. And that's why they're using it more often. So again, just like always keeping your client educated on like how things work. Does anybody have any questions or anything that they would like to add? Conversation. If not, to like we always say that these calls are recorded and they're posted later. So feel free to go back and watch on them. And if you have an aha moment or you think of a question later and you wish you had asked earlier, it's okay. You can feel free to write your question in band and me or Melanie or Patricia will be more than happy to like reach out and answer any questions. And if not, do you have anything else you want to add, Mel?
No, I think we covered everything pretty well.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, then that is it for today. And if, yeah, we'll see you guys next week. I think next week's topic is formal styling. So we'll see you next week for that.
All right. Bye.
Bye.